But anyway,
Yes.
so welcome.
Thank you.
Leon, introduce yourself to the world for me,
So,
please.
My name's Leon Mehtab. I'm the founder, director of Eveleon Asset Management. So we are a commercial real estate asset management advisory firm focused on making our clients' portfolios more profitable and operationally efficient, and ultimately enhancing the value of their investments.
Nice. So you're a young guy. This is your own company.
I'll take it.
First round doing it.
Yeah.
What have been some of the challenges so far with starting this company?
Good question. I mean, the challenges so far, I think, mainly stem from kind of penetrating existing relationships in the industry. A lot of the commercial property world in the UK operates kind of on a legacy basis, and there's very well established firms and there's very well established investors. So I think it's definitely been a challenge to come in as kind of a consultant on my own and try and penetrate those relationships, because if an investor has done something for so long and they're used to having things a certain way, or someone's grandfather has set something up in a certain way for so long and it's just worked, it's very easy it's very easy for them just to stick with that, but just because something is working, it doesn't mean it's optimal. And it's very easy just to kind of get set in your ways and not be adaptable and not kind of change with the market and the way things are done. But on the other hand, on the flip side, kind of the main clients that I advise are private investors, family offices, and property companies, and they're all privately run. It's the investors' own money. So oftentimes it is the family offices and the private investors who are able to adapt quicker and make changes to the way they do things, just given the way they operate, as opposed to a much larger fund or a publicly traded company with all kinds of processes and steps before you have to make a change. So it's not all bad, but that's definitely one challenge.
Nice. So where were you before this? What's your journey with coming into the industry? How did you sort of get into property?
Sure. So I mean, my journey into real estate is somewhat odd. I mean, like many people in the industry in the UK, our families are involved somehow, and my father's also in the business. So
Fine.
I was always exposed to real estate and property kind of throughout school and throughout my life. But I originally wanted to go into law after having watched Suits for the first time.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, I did a law A level and I was good at it, and I liked law, and it's a great profession, obviously. So that was the original kind of thought process when it came to picking a career. And I originally wanted to go to university and study philosophy, actually, because again I found it really interesting, and I thought it would equip me well with the right kind of skill set for the legal profession, and also kind of just build upon what I was already good at, which was analytical, written, kind of argumentative, academic subjects.
Fine.
So I applied to Manchester University and Cardiff University and a few others. I don't even remember what the other ones were, but as it turns out, I didn't even get into Manchester, which was my first choice. But I got into Cardiff, and then kind of on results day, just kind of had this revelation that I didn't actually want to be in Cardiff for some reason. And Cardiff was, at the time, it probably still is, but it was a really good, well-ranked faculty and school for philosophy. So I thought, it's a Russell Group uni, great school, so let's apply to it. But for some reason, just didn't want to be in Cardiff. And it turns out I ended up in Bristol, which is just across the water from Cardiff anyway. So just considered my options, and I went through the clearing process to get into UE, Bristol, studying real estate undergraduate. And at the time I was just kind of considering those options, and having been exposed to property through work experience and just through the family connection, it made sense to do that. And I also liked how direct of a career it was, or course it was into a career after graduating. I didn't want to have to go on and do a master's or do another kind of qualification in order to get a
straight
job.
into work.
So that's what I liked. So that's kind of how we got to where we are now. And then graduated in 2020, and then during the degree I'd done various placements at CBRE, who are the biggest kind of real estate services firm in the world, as I'm sure your viewers will know, and Landsec as well, who I think are the UK's number one REIT,
they are
real estate investment trust. So did some good placements, but graduated in 2020.
So did you do your final year during COVID, or was it just before?
Well, that's it. So it's during COVID. So my final year was technically, I think it was September 2019.
Yeah.
And then COVID was early 2020. So graduated in the thick of COVID.
How did you find the last year? Was it tough?
Not really, to be honest. Same with, I think a lot of people can relate to this, but they had given us all kinds of concessions because of COVID. So I think it was something like your grades, what you were at before COVID, couldn't go down.
Nice.
Irrespective of the results that you got in your final year.
Fine.
So you could add to your performance, but you couldn't actually go down from it.
Okay.
Which for me wasn't a bad thing. But I can imagine if you were banking on the final year to do well,
to bring it all back is pretty tough. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be the pressure would be on. But yeah, it was tough for sure. But I eventually landed a position at Stretton's, and I say it was tough because a lot of the graduate intakes had been paused until at least January of 2021, if not later than that, as I remember. So trying to get a graduate position obviously wasn't the easiest time to be doing so. But yeah, got a couple of interviews, and eventually landed a position at Stratton's in the asset management department. And yeah, I mean, it was tough, and I can definitely relate to a lot of your audience who are graduates now or will be graduating soon. It was tough. I just had the mindset of my full-time job was trying to get a full-time job. So just literally treating it like a 9 to 5, and my dad was helpful at the time in putting the feelers out, and also just giving me numbers of people to call, and it was just a case of just picking up the phone and asking for a position.
Right.
Which was a little bit daunting, even though I've always been pretty personable.
It can be, yeah. Were you? So did you just go onto the asset management team? Because a lot of graduation roles do like rotations.
Yeah, so I did a fixed seat.
Fine. Okay.
So I don't know if that was. I think that was the way Stratton's worked, but I think because of COVID, hiring had changed quite a bit, and there was a resource that had to be filled. So, and of course, I wasn't going to complain too much getting a job that quickly after graduating. So, but there's definitely pros to being in that fixed seat. I was able to really establish a foundation in a discipline that kind of crosses a lot of other skill sets within the industry, and just develop relationships with clients over the long term, develop relationships with solicitors and other contacts. So yeah, I mean, the one good thing about rotating is obviously you get to find out what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was in a fixed seat, and I was there for 2.5 years. Did my APC there, became chartered, and then moved on to Cadans. It was great to build that foundation up in that discipline, and it does really give you a good foundation. And I was just open-minded at the time. You had to do a placement in valuations for the APC, so I did that.
Fine.
I did some work in the agency teams, which were kind of traditional transactional work, which I found really interesting as well. And I kind of always had, at the time, I really wanted to do an agency placement, just to see what that was about. But asset management is all encompassing. Really, it's a very broad term.
Yeah.
There's all different types of real estate asset management. You know, it could be advisory, it could be, you know, you could be on a discretionary mandate, you could be co-investing. So it's a great foundation, and it leads to lots of other elements of the industry. So yeah. I ran with that.
Nice. What would you say is the best thing that you've learned during that time at Stretton's? As a young guy studying for his APC, perhaps?
Yeah, so I learned a lot at Stretton's, you know. I mean, I really cut my teeth there on some really interesting assets. You know, a great team, great mentor. So many things. I mean, like Simon Tilsiter was my boss, and he sadly passed away now. But I still think back to things that he taught me back then, like about managing clients and being communicative, and you know, always treat the property like it's yours. What would you do? And yeah, just so many things. But I think you just, when you're in that stage of your career, you just got to be a sponge. And it was challenging because obviously being COVID, we weren't in the office. I wasn't in the office for the first year of my career, basically. I think I had like 2 weeks in the office just to get to meet people, and then it was lockdown again. So,
gosh, how do you think that was? Because when I'm going into the office for my internship or grad scheme, I'd want to be in 5 days a week, because you learn through osmosis, people say. How was that? Would you find it harder to learn things when you're at home?
I think it definitely I wouldn't say it set me back, because you know, you make up for it afterwards, but it was, in a way, it was all I knew, because COVID took over the world, and I happened to be graduating at that time, and that's all that was the new normal.
Yeah.
So you just kind of had to go with it, but it definitely wasn't optimal, for sure. I mean, I think I just would have learned everything faster, and you would have been in that environment where, you know, you could just ask a question to your colleagues, your boss. You're allowed to kind of fail and take risks in a controlled environment in the office as a grad, as opposed to being isolated on your own and not really knowing what you can and can't do, and having to kind of constantly take instructions from your boss, which you should do anyway, but obviously makes it a lot harder if it's on Teams or a phone call.
Yeah.
It's just a lot more disruptive to everyone's workflows. But yeah, it was an interesting time, for sure.
Definitely. Now, you then moved on to Cadans.
Mm-hmm.
Was that any different to what you were doing at Stretton's?
Cadans was very different. So yeah, after my 2.5 years at Stretton's, I moved client side to Cadans, and yeah, it was different for many reasons. First of all, it was what the industry calls client side, which is essentially a position at the client company, at the investor.
Yeah.
And that was a complete dynamic shift from being a consultant and having multiple clients, and giving advice to the clients as a professional, whereas being in-house on the client team as a landlord and investor, your processes shift to the tenants being your clients. So it's a completely different thing to get used to.
I suppose it's good to get that full perspective of both sides of the sector.
For sure. I mean, that's one thing I've definitely appreciate now, given where I'm at and building this business up, is when speaking to landlords now and clients that I work with, I'm able to just put myself in their shoes, having been working for a client side organisation. And Cadans was great. It was very institutional, very corporate, in a way, because it was a much bigger organisation. It was a life sciences platform from AXA investment managers, and the numbers were a lot bigger. It was just an entirely different way of doing things. We were a developer as well, so roughly 70% weighted in development in the fund when I joined. That's probably changed now, but there's a whole different kind of skill set and discipline to develop. But it was definitely valuable.
So you were based in Canary Wharf?
I was at the end, yeah. I mean, when I first joined, we were based out of a WeWork in the West End, and I was like the 12th person to join the team. So it really had that kind of startup vibe to it, with the bigger European business behind it as well. But we had, at the time, Cadence had 2 projects going on in Canary Wharf. One of them finished, so then we moved our offices to Canary Wharf.
Fine. And how was Canary Wharf back then, tenancy-wise? Because people say moving out of the city, and then they say they're moving back into the city. Yeah. Where are they at with that?
Canary Wharf is really interesting. I mean, I been going to Canary Wharf for a long time, over a decade, just on and off, and it really has transformed. I mean, it was only a year ago when I left Cadence, so, but even then it's changing all the time. Canary Wharf have done a lot to really, I think, improve people's interaction with the estate on the ground level as a pedestrian. It used to be very much, the case that you'd turn up and go straight up to your offices, and there wouldn't be much to interact with on the ground floor. And but they've really, done a great job of enhancing that. I think the occupational profile at Canary Wharf is changing as well. I mean, there's a lot of build-to-rent residential going up there now, and I think that's becoming a real, core part of their business plan.
Yeah.
And they're not just relying so much on office, even though office is still, I think, the biggest
probably
sector for them.
I'm sure.
They're diversifying in that respect, and life sciences was also another thing that they were using to diversify. And we came in when I was at Cadence, and we're kind of their joint venture partner in the life sciences space. We were specialists, and they were specialists at building tall buildings and operating that estate.
Fine. So you started Eveleon. When would you say you officially brought it up? Because from what I remember, were you doing it part-time, and now you've recently became full-time with it?
Yeah, it started off kind of very, very ad hoc, just helping family friends out for free, and just advising them on this and that, because I was a chartered surveyor, so people would come to me and say, what should I do here on rent, or there's a new lease, or I'm looking to buy this. So it started off very ad hoc, and that kind of built up organically through just people referring me on to their mates and their contacts in industry. So I'd have a bit of a book of contacts and investors that I could work with.
Nice.
But officially launched in May of last year. So it's still under a year since we've launched full time.
Nice.
And it's got to the point where, I thought, could I do this myself? I'd always wanted to build my own business up, and had I continued to work full time in a corporate position, my attention would have eventually been split, and it's not fair to the corporate job to have your attention split. It's not fair to your private clients that you want to try and get to know better, having your attention split. So eventually you have to commit and take the leap, and you can always talk yourself out of starting your own business or not doing something, but eventually you just have to take the risk. And it's just about trying and learning and failing and trying again, because I would have hated not having taken this risk.
No, exactly.
And just still have been,
wondering
thinking about it exactly in the back of my head. And look, you can always go back to a full-time position. You can always go back to the corporate world if you want to, and if you need to. It's always going to be there for you if you're a chartered surveyor, and if you're motivated enough. So
yeah, that's what's quite good about, I suppose, building a consultancy firm is, what have you lost? If it doesn't work out, you've lost your time. You've not lost much money because you're not putting too much into it.
Yeah.
But what would you think has been the biggest thing you've learned since starting? I know it's been under a year, but still, what would you say is that thing you've learned the most?
I think I've learned a lot, for sure. When you're responsible for generating business yourself, and you're responsible for paying the bills, and you're responsible for growing something, you have an entirely different approach. And you don't have to start your own business or your own company to actually realize this. You can start a business within a company, and we'll talk more about that later, I suppose. But yeah, it's just a mindset shift of I need to get myself out there. I need to contact people. I need to learn how to sell, learn how to pitch, learn how to construct an offer that fills a need for people. So all of those things you kind of develop a little bit, and you have training in a corporate world, but you're insulated from the real consequences of actually getting paid or not getting paid.
Yeah.
So definitely learning how to sell and position an offer has been something I'm still learning. You never stop learning.
No, exactly.
But it's been really fun.
Would you like to share your biggest mistake so far?
Biggest mistake so far, I think, was instructing a really bad architect on some repositioning advice I was giving to a client, and the architect wasn't very communicative. And look, it's not all their fault, right? I mean, this is the thing. So I ended up losing that client,
right?
And it wasn't just the architect's fault. Of course, it was the team. The team takes responsibility, but I think just learning how to manage different types of clients and knowing how to report, when to report, understanding your client's objectives and what they expect from you is incredibly important. And I made a mistake in not clarifying that properly with this particular client.
Fine.
Because you assume they want things done a certain way, or you assume that they're happy with the way that you're communicating with them at the moment, or reporting to them, or updating them. You assume that they're going to be content with the deliverables that you're providing them. And look, I think that the client could have done a better job of outlining that as well. But it's your job to bring it out of them as the consultant, and to fully clarify your instructions. So that was a mistake, but it's part of being business.
Exactly.
And you live and you learn, and you just don't make the same mistake twice.
No, exactly. That's what I like about these videos. We spoke about this just before I started filming, but I'm learning at every single stage. Like, I've even got a screen at the back now showing my logo, which is the first thing I've done. First time I've done it even. And that's what's nice about it, because at the end of the day, for myself, I'm still at the very, very beginning of my career, and I've got so much to learn. Yeah. And this is the stage now where I can afford to make my mistakes, because who cares if I've accidentally not picked up the audio or something, it's a shame.
Hopefully not.
No, I will have to check it now. It's going to be in the back of my mind otherwise for the rest of the filming.
Do you want to check it now?
Yeah, let's check it now.
Okay.
So, Leon, what made you start Eveleon, your company?
So as I mentioned before, I knew I always wanted to build my own business eventually. And I kind of took the approach of starting it now and using the additional time in my career to compound the growth of the company and the success of the company, and learn and build this up early on in my career, i.e., after 6 or so years, as opposed to starting your own thing later on in your career, often the last step of people's career, when they want to wind down a little bit, or when they want to semi-retire, and then try and take some clients with them from their career in their previous position. So, people do. It's fairly common for people to start their own thing in this business eventually, but I took the approach of, why not just do it now and use the additional time on your side in your favour.
And how did you land that first client of yours?
My first client was actually an investor that I tried to pitch, or that I did pitch to way back when I was at Stretton's. And it was towards the end of my stint there, and I'd qualified, done my APC, and I was chartered, and I ended up meeting the client with my boss, with the team, went down to inspect the building, we talked through the nature of the instruction and everything. Turns out that we would have had to charge too much for what it was, and we just recommended to the client that, you know, we're happy to take on the work, but it's probably not going to be best value for you.
Yeah.
So they went elsewhere, and then fast forward a couple of years after that, when I started my own thing up, they actually approached me and said, do you want to take on this instruction independently now? And obviously the answer was yes.
Yeah. Would you say that's what puts you aside from your bigger advisory firms? What's your sort of niche for people to go to you rather than your bigger companies?
I think it's a great question. I think what it comes down to with that, and what I say to clients that I speak to, is that with me, you're getting someone whose outcomes are directly correlated with the outcomes of the client. You know, I'm directly incentivized to make sure that that client does well and succeeds, because ultimately it's my own business and it's my own livelihood. So you're going to get a very high level of service and attention to detail. You know, ultimately, like if you're instructing a huge advisory firm, you're probably not going to get that level of care, because the person you're dealing with is going to get their salary at the end of the month. They're going to be looked after. The person your point of contact might leave and resign, and you've got to get to know somebody all over again. And ultimately, as you know, the kind of clients I deal with, being private investors or family offices, they've often started something up themselves as well earlier on in their career, or their family has, or somebody has close to them. So there is that relatability there, and they often understand where you're coming from. Being a self-starter person, they want to deal with other self-starter people. So there's definitely that edge. There's fantastic benefits to dealing with huge advisory firms as well. And what I say to clients is, you know, I'm very happy to complement your existing team or another agent that you work with, of course, and you get the best of both.
So, starting your own company, people could say it's a bit risky. Okay, it's, you know, you got quite a bit at stake. Was there anyone trying to convince you otherwise to perhaps not?
There's definitely people trying to talk me out of starting my own business, 100%, and you know, it was all very valid. There wasn't any malicious intent to it, really, I don't think, and it was all stuff I needed to hear, because it is a big change. It is an unconventional path to take, some would say, but you know, people made like very convincing arguments against doing this now, and I was even umming and ahhing between myself about it.
Yeah.
But if you hear extremely convincing arguments and you still know that it's what you want to do, I think it tells you everything you need to know.
Nice.
And you have to have just complete delusional self-belief at you know, certainly at the beginning, that you're going to make it work, otherwise it won't.
How many clients did you begin with? Just the one?
Growth has been good. I mean, I started with 3 core clients, really. So 2 private investors, 1 family office, single family office, which definitely provided a volume of work to get started with, and they're still clients to this day. And growth has been good, you know. It's, the management is steady. I just had a meeting today about taking on a new instruction potentially, so we'll see what happens with that. But I also appreciate that it's less than a year in, so there's a long way to come and a long way to I've got a lot to work on. But I'm really enjoying being on the journey.
Good. And it's just yourself?
Just myself. Yeah.
Nice. Do you have plans to, obviously you'll have plans to grow much, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think in the next 5 years, the core business is asset management advisory, and we're definitely going to continue to grow that service line. So we're actively taking on new instructions now, so you know, do get in contact. But no, we'll be rolling out or I will be rolling out a couple of service lines as well in due course, new service lines.
Nice.
Certainly within the next 2 years or so is the goal. But ultimately, we're focused on making our clients' portfolios more profitable and just turning investments into lasting legacies for them.
What's your 10-year goal, would you say?
The 10-year goal, I mean, it is very, very good to set goals. But at the same time, you have to remain agile and receptive to new opportunities. I think the 10-year goal is, again, continue to grow the management arm of the business. We'll have added at least 2 more service lines. We'll be continuing to invest proprietary capital as well as client capital, and have an established fund at that point, as well as having the advisory business that we have now.
So you mentioned using new tech. Mm-hmm. How are you using AI in your work?
It's a great question. I mean, I use AI a lot primarily for brainstorming, and for efficiency in workflows. You know, I try to incorporate it in outreach and in marketing and brainstorming. You know, LLMs are an incredible tool that we have at our disposal, and you know the technology is changing month to month. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, you know, for your audience who are coming into the workforce now, you have to be knowledgeable and fluent to a certain degree in AI. And I think that if you're interviewing for a position and you can go in and show your interviewer how you incorporate AI yourself and how you want to use it, and how you can help the team that you're going into become more efficient with AI, whether it be LLMs or whether it be add-ons into Excel or other existing software platforms that everybody uses, I think you've got to stand out so much. So, you know, definitely get upskilled on AI, and understand that it is here to stay. It's well established in the world now, and if you don't use it, I think you are going to be left behind to a certain extent. And you know, it's, as the saying goes, it's not going to be it's AI that takes your job. It's going to be people that know how to use AI that take your job. I think that definitely has relevance. So don't be ignorant to it, but also I think it's important to know when not to use AI, and you know when to. Yeah, if you rely on it for everything, you're just going to become dependent on it. In a way, and you're going to lose all your brain cells.
You will.
But I think all this just means that relationships in business, and especially in property, are just more important than ever.
But taking all of that into consideration, do you still think the sector's quite AI resilient?
Property?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, AI resilient. I mean, it depends what you mean by that, really, because luckily for graduates coming into the workforce now, the property industry has been traditionally slow to adopt new technologies.
Yeah.
So in that respect, you probably have a few years on your side before AI really becomes embedded. But I know that huge advisory firms, Cushman & Wakefield, JLL, and the like, would already be using AI.
Yeah, they're using it.
You know, their own proprietary AI technology, and would have been using it for a while, or at least been developing it. So, yeah, I mean, I think because it is a people business, and because what we do relates to buildings and tangible physical assets, there's always going to be an occupier in that building, and somebody who owns that building who is a person, of course. So it's resilient in that respect for sure. But it's depending on what discipline you're in property. You know, there's opportunities all over the place. Of course, AI companies development companies, software companies, AI adjacent companies are going to grow, and there's definitely an opportunity from an office space there. There's obviously a data center opportunity as it relates to AI. So yeah, the property industry will of course adapt, and all AI is basically is just is service data centers, and that need to be housed somewhere in buildings.
Exactly. Leon, I'm sure you're a very busy guy starting your business now. What's your typical day look like for you?
So a typical day, the way I like to structure my day is in kind of two main chunks. The first part of the day I like to spend servicing existing clients' instructions, primarily because it gives you the whole day to get over the line on something if you have to. You use the first part of your day to focus on things that are going to move the needle, and someone could get back to you, you can get back to them, all within the same day, and you can use the entire day if you had to get over the line on something. So I like to do that first. And the second part of the day is typically spent trying to win new business, either through directly contacting people or by thinking about content and marketing. Of course, marketing and advertising is a key part of any business, especially a new one. So that's just fundamental to growing. And you've got to spend time working on the business as well as in the business, and you just got to get that balance right. But that's like how I typically like to structure my day.
So most of my audience watching are from the ages of maybe 18 to 30, I would say. They're all sort of in the stage of looking for jobs, and job market isn't too great. It's hard to find these grad roles. What would you say the younger generation need to do to stand out more and get that job they're after?
Sure. So, I mean, as I mentioned earlier on, graduating out of COVID was tough for sure. So, I do empathise with a lot of your audience who are graduates or will be graduating soon. I think you just have to. I spoke about AI earlier on, and an obvious one is get upskilled on AI and how you can use it and apply it to the role that you're interviewing for. If you are interviewing with somebody and you can demonstrate how AI is going to make the process more efficient and how it's going to make that team or that firm more money, or how it's going to save you time, then I think you're just going to stand out massively. So definitely get upskilled on AI. I think just doing the basics right as well is super important. Most of the interview process at graduate level is a culture test, a personality fit test, because most of, everything else can be taught. And as a graduate, they're not expecting you to be a master in the subject. So I think if you can demonstrate that you are willing to work hard and that you are adaptable and can learn, and you'll definitely stand out. I mean, can you realistically spend 9 hours, 8 hours a day with that person, and is the existing team going to get on with that person, and are you going to gel? Having been on the other side of the interview table myself, hiring for juniors and graduates, I can definitely say that is a really big factor in the hiring process. So if you can demonstrate that, and you can just be the most likable version of yourself that you can be, and be the most pleasant and honest, and understand that if you don't know an answer, don't try and blag it. Don't try and come across as more competent than you are. Of course, you have to be qualified, and you have to have some kind of background, substance behind why you're interviewing for that position, knowledge or whatever it might be. But these are definitely ways you can stand out.
Awesome. And what would be your advice for the people watching who may be thinking about starting their own company?
It's a great question, and I would think very carefully about it. I think it depends on where you are in your journey. So, you have to work for someone for at least 5 to 10 years, I think, before you think about starting your own business or company. Primarily to find out what you like and what you don't like, and to learn and to try and to fail and to experiment with what discipline of the industry you're actually going to want to develop a career in. And that's one of the great things about the graduate programs, is that you do get that exposure. But even if you're in a fixed seat, or even if you haven't found a job yet, but you've made a bit of a network, ask people, and network with people in the building, in the office, work the room, work the floor, and find out if you can move across and get exposure to as many bits of the industry that you can. And then, once you've found what you like and what you don't like, then pick a discipline and stick with it and learn, develop a really strong skill set on that particular discipline, develop a network in that discipline, develop a track record in that field. And, by the way, you never stop learning, of course, but you build up, you bank some experience. And then once you've done that, then you can think about either, and by the way, you don't have to start your own company to actually build up a business. You can operate your own business within a larger company. Take ownership of the work that you're doing, treat it like your own, try and win business, and be held accountable for what you're doing. For example, if you're an agent, talk to your boss about changing your pay structure, and by taking a lower basic and taking more of an upside, and more of a commission on the work that you do, so you can actually practice.
Yeah, and sort of fight for the work more and fight for the money.
Exactly, and you would be able to experience what it's like to run your own business and think about getting out what you put in, all within a controlled, safe environment of not having to leave your own firm.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the American brokerage model, and it is going to become more established over here. I think it already is in the residential space. You work ultimately for yourself and build a business up under the banner of a different organisation.
Right.
So think about whether that's something you want to pursue by, as opposed to starting something up from scratch, because you're already leveraging somebody else's brand, an established name in the market, technology that's on your side, and platforms that you would have access to, and also the network of contacts and colleagues, so to speak, within that company that you'll be able to pass deals to and from, and do a lot of things off market that way. Also think about working for a smaller company before you start your own. Go and work for a startup, go and work for a private investment fund, go and work for a smaller agency team, a smaller consultancy, so that you're a lot closer to the decision making, a lot closer to the action and the operations of the business, the revenue, so you can actually see what it takes to run a business and how it's run.
Nice.
Depends on if you're coming in as the second person, the fifth person, the 12th person. It's all going to be a different experience. And then once you've done that, I think, and you're definitely sure that you want to start your own thing up, then absolutely go for it, but just don't be disillusioned. And a lot of starting your own business and working for yourself is glamorized these days, but it's not definitely not all sunshine and rainbows, and you have to be prepared to work harder than you ever thought you could, and smarter than you ever thought you could. But it is incredibly rewarding, and you just have to enjoy the journey, focus on the processes and not the outcome. Very important to set goals, of course, but if you do that, the rest will take care of itself.
Awesome. Now, there's benefits for each of these, what I'm about to say. A bigger company and a smaller company. Do you recommend people either work for both or go into the smaller ones and maybe get thrown in the deep end, or go to your bigger companies because you've got that support from all of the people above and around you?
I think as a graduate in today's market, I would definitely do both if you can, absolutely. Starting at a bigger firm is definitely going to provide you with a really good foundation for the rest of your career. If you come from an established name in the market, or if you come from CBRE or Jones Lang LaSalle, the biggest real estate firms in the world, you will, of course, have a fantastic network of colleagues. You will learn a lot. You'll be insulated from, the risks of working for a smaller company, and you'll be able to really develop a track record there. And having a platform like that on your CV, or having a platform like that you can show to people afterwards, is going to convey a lot of professionalism, and it's going to instill a lot of trust in future clients and future colleagues. If you then go on and work for a smaller company after that, or a private investment fund after that, I think having that coming from that training ground and having that experience is definitely going to do well. If your aspirations are to start your own thing up, having a range of experience, absolutely, but having a big name on your CV will definitely be an advantage.
Yeah.
But you don't want to. I think it's all about continuing to learn, and if you're not learning in that role and you're coasting, then that's not where you want to be. So you've got to be challenging yourself, and if you're not getting out what you want from the position, then think about the next steps. But you definitely will. I'm sure at the beginning of your career you'll definitely be regretting things or thinking that this was the right decision. You won't be enjoying your job, but I think that's where you need to be, because that's where growth happens, and just be patient in the process.
Now, just to finish off, firstly, thank you very much for coming on here with me today. It was nice to get this perspective of a guy who's just started his own company. What would be your one piece of advice that you would give to the younger generation who want to get into the industry? We've covered many things that they maybe should be doing, but if you could pick out one, what would it be?
We've covered many things, and I think it's been a great conversation, and thanks for having me on. I think if I was to give one piece of advice for somebody coming into the industry now, I would really, I'd say that your success in this business is heavily influenced by your network. In any business, your net worth is your network, people say, and I think that's incredibly relevant for our business in real estate. Despite the advancements of AI and despite technology and the changing dynamics of work, I think ultimately it's a people business, and if you can build trust and build a network, then you will do well. And it's exactly what you're doing now by hosting this podcast, and you're getting your name and face out there, you're meeting people, and I think you're setting yourself up very well for a great career.
Thank you. All right, that's everything. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks, Patrick.